Welcome one and all, wherever you are in the world, to another one of Nathan Bell's commentary videos, vodcasts. Today, Nathan wants to talk about public speaking and his experience in that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk a bit about my talks that I've been giving in public speaking, because I've had a lot of feedback from people around the place saying they really enjoy these talks. So we're going to keep the series going because people are liking them. But people seem to be a bit surprised that I can cover such a variety of subjects so well and in such depth and with such good articulation. So I've had some people ask, do I read off a prompt screen? I just want to clarify, in none of the videos we've made in this series have I read off a prompt screen. There is no prompt screen. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. And what I want to say about speaking off the top of your head is it really just comes down to knowing what you want to say. See, I've given years and years to reading about politics, about science, about a myriad of issues. I've given years to being involved in action groups and discussing subjects and debating issues, and I spend a great deal of time considering my views. So if you want to present an argument, you have to know your argument, and the thing is, I can present these arguments with such good articulation and in such depth because I know my arguments, because I've taken the time in my life to consider all of my views. So all of my views are very established, and I know what I think about most issues. So that's why I'm able to speak off the top of my head so well about such a variety of issues, because I know what my position is on a variety of issues. But I have done some public speaking in my life, as I spoke about in my video on my mental health advocacy. I used to talk at mental health events, and I've spoke at universities, and I've spoke at conferences around mental health. So I've had some experience speaking in front of crowds, which is why I have some confidence speaking. But when I used to do those talks, I used to have my speech written out, and I used to read off paper. I don't do that in these videos. In these videos, I'm just talking off the top of my head. And that's, as I said, because I know what I think about everything. And I've got established views about all the issues that I want to cover. And if I'm going to cover a video in one of these talks, I will know what my position is on the subject. If I'm going to cover a subject in one of these talks, I will know my position. So if you want to be an effective public speaker or someone who discusses issues, you have to know what your position is, and that means you have to give time to considering your argument. You have to study the relevant arguments to the issue. You have to study other people's arguments. You have to understand their arguments, and you have to decide what your argument is, and you have to make sure that your argument is rational and logical and makes sense. See, I'm very big on having a comprehensive worldview, on all individuals having a comprehensive worldview and knowing what their views are on subjects and understanding subjects comprehensively. And I give a great deal of time to reading and studying, and also to meditation and thought and reflection and introspection, which is why I'm able to present these arguments so well. So that's just a response to the people who've asked, who seem a bit surprised that I'm able to present these arguments so fluently. So it all, as I said, it comes down to just knowing what you're talking about and knowing the discussions. You know, I watch Question Time, I pay attention to the news, and I read the news every day. I'm always reading the news in the afternoon when I get home from whatever I've done throughout the day, and I follow the affairs of the world, and I follow the issues, and I take time to actually consider what the headlines say and what the news articles say, not just briefly scan over them and mindlessly absorb it. I really absorb what I read, and I take the time to actually look at what articles of news and news presentations say and try and understand exactly what it is they're saying clearly and comprehensively. So, you know, anyone's capable of speaking well publicly, but you've got to know what you want to say. And, you know, sometimes before I do these videos, I'll take 10 minutes, I'll say to Zeke, who interviews me, I'll say, I'm just going to sit outside for 10 minutes and I'm just going to think about what I'm going to say. And while I sit outside, I think about my argument, and I think about the conversation, and I think about the lines I'm going to say. I think about the points I'm going to make. So I'll spend 10-15 minutes considering the points I'm going to make. And sometimes me and Ezekiel have a discussion about the subject and we brainstorm a bit. And sometimes I'll do even a bit of a Google if it's about a subject. Today I'm going to talk about Project Paperclip, which was when the American military expatriated all these Nazi scientists. And before I give that talk, I'm going to do a bit of a Google quickly just to get the facts fresh in my mind. So sometimes I do a bit of research before I'll give the talk, and then I'll think about what I want to say, but I really plan out the discussions. So you've got to recite it over and over again in your head if you want to deliver a good discussion. You've got to recite what you're going to say, you've got to think of the lines you're going to say, and then you've got to recite it numerous times in your head. And even sometimes before I come here for my Friday sessions, I usually film these videos on Friday and Sunday, and sometimes when I'm at home before I come to these sessions, I'll actually verbalise my talks. I'll actually sit there for 15-20 minutes and I'll actually speak out loud by myself at home, by myself, talking to myself like a madman, but I'll actually verbalise the discussions and say them out loud a few times over, so that when I get here and meet with Alan, Zeke, I'm prepared and ready to say what it is I want to say. So it's all very planned out in my head, and I think in depth about what I'm going to say, which is why these conversations have all turned out to come across so well, and why people seem to be so impressed by the things I'm saying. I've had a lot of positive feedback in the community and online, so it's good to see that people are responding well to my video commentary series. It's going to keep going, and I'm going to keep coming up with new subjects. So there's some points on how to be an effective speaker. You know, I've given great amount of time to considering how to be an effective speaker because I enjoy speaking and I'm very much about issues, so I want to be able to speak well on the issues that I'm passionate about. So that's how I do it. And just to reiterate again, there is no prompt screen. I'm not reading off a prompt screen. Someone has said my videos are excellent, but I need to look at the camera more, and he said I can see you reading off a prompt screen. No, there's not a prompt screen in any of these videos. This is all me speaking freely. I'm not reading off any dot points or any prompts at all. So there's some points about from me, who you can see if you've seen my series, I'm an effective speaker. So there's some points about how to be an effective speaker, and the point I need to take about being an effective speaker is to look at the camera more. But I don't think it matters too much if I'm not. I mean, I should look at the camera, it's more engaging, but what matters more is what I'm saying and the information I'm presenting. So drop a comment in the comment section about public speaking, and if you've had any experience public speaking, and what your thoughts are about my talks.